I live here in the southeastern United States, and my shop, unfortunately, is not air conditioned. So many times when I go to grab a tool off the shelf or a hand plane off the shelf, I'll see some signs of rusting, and it's really disheartening. So I want to just go through the process I use to disassemble a plane, clean up the rust, and apply a product that would hopefully prevent future rusting. In this case, I'm removing the rust off of a 5 1/4 Veritas bench plane. So one of the first things I do, of course, is I take everything apart and disassemble everything. And of course, you want to keep track of all your knobs and screws and all that. So I keep those in one pile. I even take the adjuster, the blade adjuster out. And then I'll just take an old chip brush and go through and remove any dirt, any sawdust, getting into all the little nooks and crannies, get that all situated. And if you look on the bottom here, I've got a little bit of flash rusting here. I've got a spot of rust here and some back here. So what I do is I take a non-woven abrasive pad, and this one is a coarse one, and I just start rubbing the bottom, trying to remove that rust. Now, you're not going to get the stain removed, but at least you can get the surface rust off and get back to a smooth surface. And this might take a little work. And sometimes if you got a really stubborn spot, you can use some wet dry sandpaper. This is about a 400 grit. And you could see what you can do to get rid of that rust. Now, the closer I look at this, it seems like this spot right here might actually be some glue or some other substance. I'm going to try to remove that with a solvent here in a second. So it's not going to look factory perfect, but you can get it smooth, and that's the most critical part about a hand plane, is you want the sole of that plane to be nice and smooth so it glides over the surface of the wood. So now I'm going to take just some common cleaner, and I want to attack those spots to see if that might be something besides rust. Did remove some of it, but it looks like there's a stain there. But if I feel it with my finger, it's pretty smooth. If you want to keep working at it, you can. And actually, if you're using a wet dry sandpaper, you can use your lubricant, and sometimes that works better to get at the rust. So once that's done and I'm satisfied with that, I'll just wipe it clean. And then I want to check the other surfaces. And if I look on this side, I've got just a little bit of evidence of some flash rusting here. So I'm going to do the same thing, try my abrasive pad. Even had some clear back here. And the other side, got this spot that was carried over from the bottom. Not sure what that was or what caused that. And again, you could use your wet dry sandpaper on any spots that are not quite smooth. And we're just going to wipe that again with a rag. So basically, I'm looking for any exposed steel, and that includes the bed of the plane in here. Now, I had just a little bit of surface rust on some of these bosses where the frog of the plane sits. So you could just take your wet dry sandpaper and get in there and just remove that rust. Whatever your product of choice is, you can use a light machine oil, you could use a paste wax. I've been using this product called Super Slick Stuff. So I'll just squirt some of this product on the exposed areas or the bare areas, bare steel, and wipe up any excess puddles, and do the same for the sides and the sole. And just give it a light wipe with a shop rag. If you're familiar with an oil rag in a can, this is basically strips of an old t-shirt coiled real tightly and stuffed inside this small tin can, and then saturated with a light machine oil. I keep this at the bench so when I'm planing, I can run the sole of the plane across that and make the planing task easier, but I also use it in situations like this. You could rub it on the surfaces of your hand plane and it maintains that little coat of oil, and then when you go to use the plane, just take a shop rag and wipe off the excess. So then I'll just go and make my way around all of the different components of the plane and try to remove the rust and shine it up a little bit. Now here on the adjustment shaft, got a little flash rusting, so I'll just take my non-woven abrasive and work that around the shaft, and that cleans up very nicely. Now on this particular plane, the lever cap is cast aluminum, so I don't have much to worry about there other than cleaning it up a little bit. Next comes the frog of the plane. For this particular style of plane, the frog and the handle support are all one unit. So I'll basically do the same thing. Just take an old chip brush, brush out any sawdust, take my abrasive pad and address any rust that I might find, and again apply a coat of rust protectant on that. And then I'm down to the cap iron and the iron. Now when I had pulled this off the shelf, I had some flash rusting on the iron, so I took the cap iron off. Again, used my non-woven abrasive and just worked at it. Here I'm just going in the same direction as the original factory machining marks, but you can go in whichever direction you prefer to remove any surface rust. Same thing with the cap iron. Now while you've got your plane apart, now is a really good time to take your iron and sharpen it before you reassemble it. So again, I'm going to use a rust protectant. I'm going to coat both sides of my plane iron and cap iron. I should mention that WD-40 was not designed as a rust protectant. It was designed to displace water, but it is a great cleaning agent, but I would not rely on it solely for protecting your tools from rust. Now I'm going to reassemble this iron. Here's a trick I use when assembling the cap iron to the iron. Take your iron, find where your screw is, set it down into the hole in the iron, then you're going to pull the cap iron back and then rotate it onto your blade. That way you're not damaging the cutting edge. So now it's just a matter of making any final adjustments to the blade depth, tightening everything down, and putting it to work.